Discover 6 sinister public transportation stories revealed to haunt your every commute forever. The bus lurched to life, its aging engine sputtering as if alive and reluctant. Inside, the air thickened with the scent of sweat and despair. Shadows danced across the windows, reflecting the dim streetlights outside. It was late, the kind of hour where dreams slipped away and nightmares waited to pounce. Sarah clutched the straps of her worn-out purse, unease prickling at her neck like icy fingers. Each commute twisted further into fear. At the back, 2 men huddled, their whispers sharp and urgent, folding around the clamor like a dark secret. An odd chill ran down Sarah's spine. Who were they? The shabby clothing, the furtive glances they pulled at something deep inside her. A mother's instinct screaming to pay attention. She tried to breathe, to shake off the edge of paranoia creeping in. She glanced around, hardly meeting anyone's eyes, each face telling its own story of survival twisted into desperation. Sudden movement jerked her heart. A tired woman sat with mismatched shoes, eyes glued to her phone, while a young man in a hoodie seemed to fade into the shadows, skin taut against his bones. A middle-aged man blinked rapidly, looking out, searching for escape. Each passenger was threadbare, teetering on the brink of something unseen, something sinister. The bus clattered through the half-lit streets, and she felt each bump reverberate through her core, amplifying her dread. It was then that Sarah's mind spiraled to the unsettling news buzz surrounding the town, dark headlines circling like vultures. Disappearances of women, each vanishing near her stop, each name a tether to a growing fear. When she reported her concerns, the cops brushed her off, suggesting she was just an overwhelmed single mother, echoing her darkest fears, making her questions of protection for Jake feel futile. Tonight felt worse. As the bus jolted, an undefined dread gripped her heart. She wasn't merely scared. She was alive with terror. Who was watching? She felt it, a presence lurking behind her, dragging her spirit into a winter of isolation. The looming shadows grew long as the light dimmed further. The bus hissed to a stop, and all eyes shifted to the door. A tall figure stood there shrouded in gloom, an insistent energy tugging at her recognizable warmth. And no, she shuddered, recognizing an all-too-familiar silhouette. Was it her sanity fraying? Blood roared in her ears as her hand gripped Jake's. Her son's wide eyes filled with trepidation, his small body huddling against hers. She had to protect him. She had to shield him from every monster hiding in the world, including this one. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the tense hush settled over the bus, a ripple of awareness pulsed. Those hollow-eyed faces were a chorus of frozen uncertainty, but it was the burdened silence that struck her hardest. The figure remained there, unyielding, almost a dark statue, waiting. The bus rattled back into motion, and she felt his gaze like ice scraping against skin. Trust frayed, sensibility shattered. Each moment before the bus careened forward dug deeper into her thoughts. What if he had a connection to the women? What if he knew her? Goosebumps raised on her arms, spilling dread into her gut. Was she the next name on the list? The reminder of decay flooded in. The walls of her world felt too thin, too close, the shadows ready to consume her with every stop. The grotesque uncertainty swallowed her whole, leaving her spiraled in the raw darkness. What awaited beyond this bus ride? What horrors might tomorrow reveal? The bus shuddered, thumping against the cracked pavement as Sarah's racing heart matched its rhythm. She held Jake tighter, his soft breathing barely audible against the chaos inside her mind. Outside, the streetlights flickered ominously, casting eerie shapes against the fog that rolled in with the night. The tall figure stepped onto the bus fully, face obscured by a hood, and the doors hissed shut behind him, sealing them all inside. The bus felt smaller suddenly, the air thickening with dread. Sarah's eyes darted to the other passengers. Faces once indifferent now betrayed flickers of fear, glances shifting toward the newcomer. He wasn't just any shadow. She could feel it, the very air seemed to convulse with tenacity, as though everyone knew he bore a secret, a dark promise. "Don't look, Mom. Don't look." Jake's voice was quivering, breaking through the unsettling silence. But she couldn't stop. It was instinct. She steeled herself, a deep breath filling her lungs as she turned to face him. His eyes dark, hollow pits seemed to swallow her whole. A smirk danced across his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. A chill snaked its way down Sarah's spine. 15 minutes to midnight, he murmured, almost to himself. The words rolled off his tongue like a spell, summoning an oppressive weight within the bus. People shifted uneasily, the tension palpable as they tried to act normal, even as every fiber in Sarah screamed that nothing was normal. The bus swayed, throwing the passengers against one another like marionettes cut from their strings. Somewhere in the back, someone gasped, clutching a woman's sleeve, a reminder that they were not alone in the cage of fear. Sarah's own hands trembled, her knuckles whitening as she remembered all those names from the news, the terrified faces that echoed in her nightmares. With each passing block, the bus lost pieces of itself. The hum of the engine seemed to mask a deeper thrum, a heartbeat pulling them further into a labyrinth of shadows. The figure's gaze didn't waver. He was still watching her, and it felt like he was peeling away layers of her sanity with every ounce of fear he evoked. "Stay close, Jake. Just stay close." Sarah leaned closer, shielding her son with her body like a shield against whatever dangers loomed. As the bus took a long turn, the lights from the street began to dim, flickering and dancing before plunging them into darkness. Screams rippled through the bus, a mix of terror and sheer panic as the fluorescent lights above blinked and fizzled out one by one. "Help! What's happening?" the middle-aged man called out, his voice thick with desperation. Sarah felt a sudden lurch as the bus seemed to buckle under an unseen force. Another flicker, and in the brief interlude of light, she saw him again, the figure, the very silhouette of nightmares carved in blackness. The bus shuddered to a stop, the driver exhaling loudly, cursing under his breath. "It's just a power outage," he reassured. But Sarah wasn't convinced. Silence wrapped around them, crushing, heavy. She could feel Jake trembling, a tiny body rigid against her. The figure moved closer, gliding like a wraith down the aisle, each footfall echoing deathly promise. "Are you ready for the midnight train?" he asked. His words a twisted lullaby. It dawned on her, was this the moment? The arrival of doom she feared? She looked around, her heart pounding, a frenzied search for any semblance of escape as the panic of everyone on board climbed higher. With another violent lurch, the bus jolted again, lights flicking back on only to reveal something that left Sarah's heart in her throat. The windows were covered, darkness blanketing the outside. They were trapped in a prison of their own making. "Where are we?" someone shouted, uncertainty giving way to chaos. Amidst the frantic shouts, Sarah felt an icy tendril of fear clutch her throat as she turned back to face the figure. He was grinning now, as if relishing their despair. Oh, but this is just the beginning. What lay ahead? As the bus vibrated with electric fear, the first loud crash shattered their collective breath, and Sarah braced herself for what came next. The noise of metal creaking filled the air, sharp and wretched. Panic ignited the bus in an inferno of frantic whispering. Sarah held Jake tighter, her heart a caged animal trying to claw its way free. The lights flickered again, illuminating fleeting moments of terror etched on every face. Then darkness would rush back, smothering their fear inside the void. "Is it an accident?" someone yelled from the back. Hope warped into dread as the bus creaked further, the feeling of a distant engine thrumming against their skin. The figure moved through the illuminated chaos, his grin wide and unfathomably cruel. "Accident? Oh, how quaint." He tilted his head, casting shadows over his features. "No, this is by design." His voice was oily, slithering into their ears. "You should feel honored to be part of this." Something deep in Sarah's gut churned. A whisper flicked against the edges of her mind, warning her against engaging. Logic wafted away in the thick, suffocating air, leaving only instinct. "Mom?" Jake's voice, small and scared, cut through the turmoil. His tiny hand clutched at her sleeve. She turned slightly, giving him a glimpse of reassurance, but her attention snapped back to the figure. He was too close, too intimate with their fears. A loud thud vibrated through the bus, jolting her heart like a startled rabbit. The windows rattled, echoes of a force unseen pressing down upon them. A passenger in the corner shrieked as the lights died completely, plunging them into total black. Silence collapsed back like a wave crashing into the shore. Sarah's breath quickened. A single shriek from the back, a girl, maybe 13, seared through their silence. Fear transformed to raw panic. The icy grip of horror twisted around them. And then, the lights ignited again, but not as they'd been. Now they cast a sickly dim glow. People huddled together, clawing for comfort and safety. Some were gasping, some crying. The figure stood at the front, a silhouette against the sickly luminescence, watching, always watching. "Why don't you all make yourselves comfortable?" he said with an unsettling calm. "Tonight we'll play a little game." A few passengers exchanged frightened glances, realization dawning that they wouldn't be leaving willingly. It bubbled thick in the air, desperation rising like a tide. "Get us out of here," someone shouted, a young man by the emergency exit. "You can't do this." It was too late. A spark ignited and soon turned into a firestorm of outrage. "Are you sure?" The figure leaned closer, their shadows intertwining, his breath a cold wind whispering death. "You see, it's not really about you or me. It's about what lies beneath." Before anyone could react, the bus lurched again, this time violently. Panic hit like a tidal wave as a scream mixed with the grinding of metal against metal. The emergency exit door slammed against its frame, and Sarah struggled to keep her eyes up, forcing back the dread that threatened to consume her. Then the sound of laughter echoed, haunting and cruel. It circled around them, a cacophony of reckless mirth that clawed at her sanity. Each laugh sent tremors of horror through the group, binding them in fear. "Let us see how well you can play," he said, each word dripping with malice. Sarah gasped, her thoughts spiraling. The bus began to sway like a pendulum, back and forth, caught in unseen hands. The sound of metal screaming against metal grew louder, and she realized they were moving somewhere. "Mom!" Jake hollered, clinging tighter to her, his little frame shivering against the weight of fear that enveloped them. The figure only smiled, bearing the glimpse of something far worse, a promise of torment embedded deep in each grin. "Midnight draws near, you have no idea what awaits," he sang, his voice melding with the eerie sounds of the bus. As they twisted around on their trapped bus, a realization struck Sarah. It raced like fire through her mind. How many people had vanished on this very route? Then the engine sputtered. A final, deafening crash came from the engine compartment, and everything rattled violently. What was happening? What exactly awaited them? Was there a way out, or was this it? With a surge of dread, she realized this was only the beginning of the nightmare. With dark shadows creeping closer, the air shivered. The night felt alive, and as the bus bucked like a wild beast, Sarah looked toward the front, determination seeping into her fear. "Jake, whatever happens, we stick together." The lights flickered again once and then went dead. What choice did they really have as they ventured deeper into that forsaken black? As the figure let out a loud, chilling laugh that echoed like a death knell, Sarah could only brace for impact, all senses on alert for the next move. And yet, in the veil of darkness, one thought echoed clearer than the rest. When the clock struck midnight, would they still be there to witness it? The darkness swallowed them, thick like a living shadow. Sarah's heart battered against her ribs, desperate for a way out. Cold sweat trickled down her back as she clutched Jake, feeling his shaky breath against her neck. The laughing had faded, leaving behind an eerie silence that pressed against their eardrums. "Where are we?" a woman whispered nearby, her voice trembling. "Shut up. Just shut up," a man spat back. The fear in his tone made it clear he was as lost as everyone else. Then, out of the silence, A sound emerged like nails scraping metal. The noise crawled through the bus like an unwelcome specter, freezing the air in their lungs. Every passenger was suddenly acutely aware of the weight of their own breaths. The echoes felt too loud in the suffocating dark. "Stay close," Sarah whispered to Jake, who still clung to her, his small fingers digging into her arm. She could feel him trembling. He was scared. They all were. Then, as if responding to their fear, the bus shuddered violently again. Metal screeched ominously, and Sarah almost lost her balance. The engine sputtered, gasped, and then went quiet, as if it had forgotten how to breathe. "Is this it?" someone cried, the panic building with each heartbeat. "Are we going to die here?" "No," Sarah shouted, surprising herself. She wouldn't give up, not now. She had to protect Jake, to instill some form of bravery in the chaos descending on them. Then came another flash of light. A soft pulse pierced through the darkness, illuminating the figure momentarily again at the front of the bus. His face appeared monstrous against the glow, a contorted grin stretched too wide, his eyes glinting with something manic and unholy. "Did you really think I would abandon you?" he taunted, a sickly sweet mockery wrapping around his words. "No, my dear children, your time here is just beginning. Do you want to know a secret?" A wave of dread swept through Sarah. What secret? She dared to ask, though part of her wished she hadn't. He leaned closer, the grin broader, as if savoring the moment. "Secrets can set you free, or imprison you forever." Had he ever been human? The thought chilled her blood. Suddenly, the bus tilted, and everyone fell as one. Screams filled the air, panic igniting like dry grass in a wildfire. Sarah scrambled to hold onto Jake, wrapping her arms around him as the world turned upside down. Darkness, light, chaos. Then, silence pierced through the noise, a profound emptiness. A gasp echoed, then another. The lights flickered again, revealing emptiness where once there had been seats filled with desperate faces. "Where is everyone?" A girl sobbed, cradled in another passenger's arms. They had been taken. "No." Sarah's voice rose in desperation. "No, this can't be happening." But the atmosphere shifted, impending doom palpable. The figure stood there, undeterred by the fear swirling around them. "Now we can begin." The lights dimmed once more, but a sliver of light glinted through a cracked window, revealing a sign post outside. "Welcome to Dread Hollow," it read in jagged letters. But before any sense could bloom, the bus jolted again, this time with a sickening lurch. Were they really moving? Sarah squinted into the haze of shadows. Was this the end of everything? Or was this simply a prelude to something far worse? Mom, Jake whimpered, eyes wide, searching her face for answers she didn't have. Then a metallic click echoed, and the doors began to swing slowly open, inviting them into the world beyond. Out of the womb of that hellish machine, the reality of the night waited just outside, cloaked in darkness. Do we go? The question hung heavy. To stay safe inside the bus or venture into the unknown? Which option might lead to safety? With darkness seeping into their souls, Sarah felt panic grasping again. "We have to find a way out, Jake." As they peered into the eerie night, shadows flickered just out of reach. What awaited them on the other side? Freedom or something far more twisted? "Just stick close to me," she urged, sensing the danger lingering in the air. The figure grinned wider, the shadows swirling. "The game has just begun. Let us see who survives to tell the tale." In the stillness before the plunge, a deep chill settled around them, and as they stepped into the night, an unknown horror awaited beyond the doors. Would they still be whole, or would they join the void? Only time would tell. The moment Sarah stepped off the bus, an unusual chill wrapped around her like a damp fog, curling into her lungs. Jake's small hand gripped hers tightly, his fingers trembling. They stood on a cracked pavement, the air thick with the stench of decay. Shadows loomed and danced in the distance, giving the sense that they were being watched, always watched. "Where are we?" Jake's voice was barely a whisper, quivering with fear. I don't know," Sarah replied, her eyes scanning the surroundings. Flickering streetlights cast a sickly yellow glow, illuminating half-collapsed buildings with shattered windows, their gaping mouths reflecting a long-forgotten horror. The figure from the bus stood at the entrance, silhouetted against the light. "Welcome to Dread Hollow," his voice echoed, dripping with mockery. "You wanted adventure, didn't you? Let the true journey begin." Without waiting for an answer, he retreated into the shadows, leaving only the haunting sound of his laughter in the air. "Mom!" Jake's grip tightened as he instinctively moved closer to her. "We need to get out of here." "Okay, we will," she promised, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "We can't stay here." The broken road stretched before them, and she felt the weight of every choice weigh down on her as they ventured forward. Sarah noticed her surroundings warped with each step curving in impossible angles, as if the very ground was conspiring against them. There could be a way out, a path away from him, she thought, pushing the irrational fear from her mind. "Mom, look!" Jake pointed to a figure far down the road, half hidden behind a crumbling wall. A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah's chest. "Maybe they can help us." "Stay close," she warned, guiding Jake forward, an urgency propelling them. The door creaked open slightly as they approached, revealing a woman inside with wild eyes and a face etched with despair. "Please don't come any closer," she shrieked, backing against the wall as if it could protect her. "Wait, we need to know," Sarah started, but the woman shook her head violently. "It doesn't matter." Her voice cracked. "You'll never escape. He will find you, just like he found us." The woman's face twisted in terror, her gaze darting to the shadows that seemed to slither in closer. Sarah stepped back, feeling the dread ripple through her. "Who?" she demanded, fear mingling with confusion. "Who are you talking about?" The woman's eyes widened in horror. "The keeper of secrets. He lures you in, and when he has you there's no coming back." "Mom!" Jake tugged at her sleeve, his tiny voice shaky. "I don't want to stay here." In a frenzy, Sarah tugged him back, glancing at the shadows closing in. "We need to move." She turned away from the woman, who had crumpled to the floor in despair. Just then, a sharp screech echoed through the air, splitting the silence. Shadows morphed around them, shifting faster than she could blink. Sarah's heart raced, the ominous presence loomed closer, and the darkness felt alive, hungry. They stumbled into the street, not daring to look back, but Sarah could feel it. Something was there, watching, waiting. "Keep going, Jake. We have to find a way out," she gasped, pushing her legs harder toward the fading lights ahead. But what direction was safety? Shadows flickering on every side seemed to mock her, and she wondered if escape was even possible. Then, without warning, the ground trembled beneath them. An unearthly growl reverberated through the stillness, chilling her to the core. "Run!" she shouted, and they sprinted forward. But where? Every corner led deeper into despair, and every breath whisked away hope. They turned into an alley, the air suffocating with sickening density, and a wall of darkness surged toward them, swallowing everything in its path. "Mom, I can't," Jake gasped, stumbling. Holding his hand tighter, she bolted ahead, heart hammering against her chest in a frantic escape. But as they raced deeper into the heart of Dread Hollow, she felt the oppressive weight of secrets whispering in her ear. Would they survive the night, or was the darkness ready to claim them too? What awaited them in the heart of the shadows? Only the keeper knew, and soon they would learn firsthand. The alley twisted like a serpent, narrowing around them as shadows spilled in from every side. Sarah quaked, her instincts screaming to turn back, but there was no time. The growl from behind them crept closer, clawing through the darkness like a malignant entity. "Mom, I can't see," Jake whimpered, squeezing her hand so tightly it hurt. She glanced down, his face pale in the dim light, sweat glistening on his brow. "Just a little further, Jake. We'll find a way out." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. The words tasted bitter, heavy with doubt, but she pushed on. The walls seemed to pulse around them, as if the very structure of Dread Hollow was alive, breathing, watching. They stumbled onto a wider street, the flickering lights up ahead seeming like distant stars against the suffocating black. For a moment, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope lift her heart. But before she could revel in that brief comfort, a low rumble vibrated through the ground, sending a chill down her spine. "Mom!" Jake cried out, fear lacing his tone. "What's happening? Just hold on." She used her body to shield him, the instinct to protect overriding all else. The growl had transformed into a vicious roar, echoing off the walls, reverberating through her bones. Suddenly, the ground split open at their feet, a pit gaping wide, filled with swirling dark mist that smelled of rotting earth. Ethan's feet faltered, and she caught him just in time. He looked up, eyes wide, face pale. "I don't want to fall in there. It looks scary." "Neither do I," she shouted, flinging them both backward from the edge. But the ground beneath them felt unstable, shifting like quicksand. Panic clawed at her throat. Every instinct told her to turn back, but what awaited them in the darkness behind? "Let us keep moving," she urged, dragging him along. They ran, the shadows clustering closer, creeping like tendrils intent on snatching them away. Somewhere behind, a shadowed figure lurked, its presence malevolent, drawing nearer. Flickering streetlights caught a brief glint of something, a sharp object, maybe even a smile. Sarah could almost feel the watchful eyes on their backs, hungry, pleading for the chase. But the way ahead was still shrouded in darkness, filled with uncertain creaks and whispers that taunted them with warnings long forgotten. Then, through the haze, she spotted an ancient church steeple, a silhouette breaking against the stormy sky. "Jake, there. We can make it to the church." She pointed, adrenaline surging through her veins. The hoping kept her feet moving, but the shadows shifted, closing in from either side. Before they could reach it, a sudden bolt of icy wind knocked Sarah off balance, sending her stumbling sideways into a dead-end alley, its narrowness suffocating. Jake cried out, his tiny frame crashing against the wall as she caught herself. "Mom?" he quavered, his voice barely a whisper under the weight of encroaching doom. "A moment, Jake," she gasped, spinning around to face the darkness. The growl morphed into a chorus of whispers, voices seeping from the cracks in the alley. "Don't listen. Don't listen." They seemed to drone, spelling out a terror she couldn't understand but felt deep in her bones. She held Jake tightly, breathing fast. The shadows stood at the entrance, a wall of impenetrable dread that filled every inch of the space behind them. "Why won't the keeper just leave us alone?" Her voice trembled as she whispered, "What does he want?" Just as the thought crossed her mind, the darkness solidified, a figure stepping into view, its eyes glowing like coals in the night. "Because he loves company," it hissed, laughter echoing in the alley. Sarah felt the world spin. "Run!" she screamed, clutching Jake's hand, their only option to break free from the clutches of despair. But just as they turned to escape, the darkness swirled around them, pushing closer yet. The figure leaned down, almost savoring the moment. "Why don't you come play instead? You can never leave Dread Hollow." And in a heartbeat, the shadows surged forward, ready to consume them whole. What game would the keeper play with them? Would Sarah and Jake ever emerge from Dread Hollow's grip? The shadows enveloped them in a swirling mass of dread, pulling them into an abyss that threatened to swallow their very souls. Sarah clung to Jake, fear coursing through her veins. "Keep close," she shouted, her voice echoing against the walls that seemed to lean in, eager to hear her desperation. As they stumbled deeper into the alley, the darkness pulsed like a living thing. The whispers grew louder, distorting into roars that clawed at her ears. "Come play! Come play!" they beckoned, a malevolent symphony meant to drive them mad. The figure was gone, but the weighted presence lingered, pressing down on them as they sprinted. They dashed past broken bottles and crumbling bricks, the distant promise of the church shadowed beneath layers of fog. "Mom, I can't. I can't." Jake gasped, his tiny legs faltering. "Just a little further. We are almost there," she coaxed, heart pounding in her chest like a frantic drum. Jake's breath came in quick bursts, their pace faltering under the weight of the encroaching darkness. Sarah risked a glance back, the shadows shifting ominously behind them, writhing and coiling, hungry. They seemed to take shape, swirling into indistinct figures, twisting with rage as if they could feel their fear, reveling in it. No, she couldn't let the keeper find them again. Move, Jake. The church is just ahead, she urged, gripping his hand tightly, feeling the sweat on his palm. With each step, the ground trembled beneath them. The growl returned, deep and guttural, resonating through the air like thunder. Then, there it was, a flicker of light, the doorway of the church, a sanctuary amidst the chaos. We can make it. Jake's eyes brightened. Maybe they would be safe. But in that fleeting moment of hope, the sky above erupted. A crack split the night, releasing an icy torrent of rain. The sudden downpour made the ground slick, their feet slipping as they skidded forward. Sarah's grip faltered for an instant, and she felt Jake's small body begin to slip away. Jake! She screamed, heart crashing as she lunged forward, catching him just before he fell. Mom! I'm scared, he cried, terror etched across his face. His wide eyes glistened with tears, reflecting the chaos of the night, full of shadows long since forgotten. Me too, she admitted, squeezing him tightly, both of them drenched in the freezing rain. She couldn't succumb to despair. But we're together. That's what matters. With renewed determination, they surged forward through the church's door, stumbling into the cramped sanctuary. The heavy wooden door slammed shut behind them, locking them into a momentary haven. But the relief was short-lived as she noticed the flickering candles illuminating the pews, casting eerie shadows that danced like lost souls. Is this place safe? Jake whispered, clutching her tighter. Safe enough for now, she replied, scanning the dark corners. Something shifted, like a breath against her neck. And then the whispers returned, louder than before. They slithered through the air, wrapping around them like a noose. You can't hide in here, they hissed, taunting. He'll find you. He always does. Sarah's heart raced, a panic rising within her. She turned to Jake, but there was something in the way he looked at her, something wrong. His innocent eyes now flickered with a hint of something darker. Mom, Jake said in a voice that didn't sound like his own. Maybe he's right now. She shook her head, clutching him tighter, dread coiling around her thoughts. Don't listen to them, Jake. Fight it. But as the shadows seeped into the church like smoke through cracks, the air thickened, and the candles sputtered. A cold laugh echoed through the room, chilling her to the bone. Welcome to your final game. What was the true game of the keeper? Was Jake still her son? Or was something else rising inside him? The walls began to pulse, trapping them in a web of deceit and terror, and Sarah took a hesitant step back, safeguarding her only weapon, hope. The flickering candles cast erratic shadows, threatening to stretch and envelop Sarah and Jake even deeper in the gloom. Each whisper grew more urgent, a cacophony echoing off the stone walls, melding into a single horrifying chant. Play with us. Play with us. Your fate is sealed. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, praying to drown out the madness. But the moment she opened them, she saw Jake standing stiff, a look of sheer terror frozen on his face. It was as if he was battling a storm inside. Jake! She cried, but the sound dulled in the thickening air. The laughter, low and haunting, filled the sanctuary, drowning her voice. Mom, Jake whispered. His voice trembled, darker still. I can't hold it back much longer, no. You're stronger than this, she insisted, taking a hesitant step closer. Her own heart raced as dread clawed at her throat. The shadows, no longer mere flickers, began to take form, figures swaying like grotesque marionettes. Their empty eyes fixated on her. A vision of the keeper flashed through her mind, the silhouette of a man gargantuan and distorted, lurking in the depths where shadows twisted. Fear paralyzed her as his laughter collided with the sound of her racing heartbeat. Fight them, Jake. Stay with me. But he trembled, eyes glistening as if water had filled them. The flickering candlelight brought a brief illumination as a figure lurked in the corner, malicious joy twisting its features. When we are nothing, it sang, he will come for us. All the shadows surged, swirling like a tempest, grasping at her son. She rushed forward, but a cold gust swept through the small church, slamming her against the nearest pew. The wood dug into her back as she struggled to regain her footing. "Mom!" Jake's voice broke through the chaos, raw and pleading. But as she pushed away from the constricting pew, she watched helplessly as his small frame was consumed by a mist that swept over him with a groping caress, pulling him into its maw. "No, no, no." The words rushed from her lips in a frantic chant as she fought against the tide of despair threatening to drag them both down. A piercing scream erupted from her mouth, and the shadows twisted violently as if responding to her terror. They hesitated, recoiling slightly, but the figures within them writhed with fury. "Stay with me, Jake!" she screamed again. The shadows loomed closer, taunting her resolve. Their insidious whispers seeped into her mind, feeding on her fear. "You will never leave. Your souls are ours now." In that moment, a realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. She had to confront the Keeper, the source of this chaos, the root of their terror. It was the only way to save Jake, the only way to break free from this nightmare. "Let him go," she bellowed, her voice echoing louder than the whispers. Felt empowering, electric. "I'm not afraid of you. We choose to fight." The figures hesitated again, the darkness pulling back, creating a vortex around her. Jake's frightened eyes pierced through the shadows. "Mom, please," he cried, almost breaking. But there was something else. A flicker of light, an echo of hope, flared to life in her chest. "Together, Jake," she commanded, determination coursing through her. "Fight them together." As she reached out, tendrils of dark mist coiling around her legs began to recede, like a tide obedient to the pull of the moon. Yet the chilling laughter of the Keeper grew louder, masking her heartbeat. Was it enough? Would Jake resist the suffocating darkness threatening to consume them both? As shadows shrieked and recoiled, Sarah felt the room tremble beneath her feet. The flickering lights dimmed, and for a brief moment, a doorway opened to something that hinted at salvation. But within that same breath, an ominous silence fell. "Your fight is futile." The whispers now surrounded them, deep, resonant. "You cannot escape the darkness. It lives in you." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Jake's breath was shallow beside her, eyes wide, his innocent face flickering between reality and something else. Had they truly become part of this hellish game? In that chilling moment, Sarah realized they were not alone, and the Keeper was already inside. What would she sacrifice to save her son? What price would they pay to finally break free from the Keeper's grasp? The darkness lurked closer, waiting, watching for an opening to strike. Then, out of the depths, came a booming voice, commanding and hungry. "The final choice approaches. Will you play?" The shadows pulsed rhythmically, their forms twisting into grotesque frights that clawed at reality. Sarah's heart raced, thundering in her ears, drowning out the accumulating whispers shifting like a tide around her. It was a sinister magic, an intoxicating dread that seeped into her bones. "Mom, I can feel it. It wants me." Jake's voice fractured, slashing through the veil of despair hanging thick in the air. The warmth of his small hand slipped from hers, and in that moment, she felt the crippling panic tighten around her throat. "No, Jake! Stay with me!" The words tore from her as she lunged forward, adrenaline igniting her limbs. She could barely see him now, the mist swirling, morphing into a chaotic dance of horror. Her breath came as gasps, and she fought against the oppressive weight of the dark. Each step forward heavier than the last, waves of laughter crashed around her. "Let him go, let him go." The shapes mocked her, a cacophony of glee that shimmered tauntingly. The Keeper's presence loomed like a storm cloud overhead, swirling with malevolence, promising destruction. But deep within her, that flicker of light fought against the shadows. "I'm stronger," she screamed, clutching the flame of hope. "We're not playing your game. I refuse." The laughter faltered for a moment, shadows quaking as they recoiled from her defiance. In that brief lull, she caught Jake's eye, wide and terrified. "Mom, I'm scared." His voice reached her, a tattered thread in the tempest. "Fight, Jake. Fight like I'm fighting," Sarah shouted, every ounce of certainty fueling her language. She felt the shadows surge once more, fueled by her fear, but her resolve solidified. Each whispered sinuous phrase floated through the grimness. Surrender to the keeper, surrender to him. The urgency in their tone began to unravel the fabric of her courage. No, she cried out, her shout echoing, amplified by desperation. I will not give in. With the last of her strength, she pushed back, summoning the light within her. It radiated, floods of warmth battling against the cold grasp of darkness. The shadows shuddered, their mass shifting as if perplexed by her conviction. Jake's eyes shot wide open, a glimmer of realization breaking through the veil of hysteria. He fought against the encroaching mist, each spasm and tremble becoming more pronounced. Mom! He reached for her hand, and she lunged, fingers just grazing against his. But then the laughter erupted again, louder, more chaotic. Play with us, surrender. With a reckless resolve, Sarah crossed the threshold of the otherworldly doorway that had opened, plunging into the center of the storm. Darkness lashed back, stinging against her skin like icy needles. Lights flickered chaotically, but she held on, seeking the pulse of her son's heartbeat through it all. Jake, hold on to me, she yelled, almost swallowed by waves of shadow as she grasped for him. Something cold struck her chin. The keeper had moved closer. A dark silhouette, towering, eyes burning with a malevolent hunger. All will be lost soon, it intoned, the voice echoing off the stone walls like a tolling bell. Fear twisted through her insides, but determination anchored her. She dared to meet the keeper's gaze, her pulse thrumming louder than the chaos. You won, take him. We will fight. The shadows twitched, writhing upon her unwavering voice, but it wasn't enough. She could feel the cinder-like chill embracing her, corrupting her will. Together, Jake. Yet as the darkness constricted, wrapping tighter around them, Sarah felt her strength begin to wane. Moments ticked by where terror threatened to drown hope. The darkness tempted her, showing visions of despair, of a future without Jake. The ground trembled with palpable tension, the shadows shifting heavily as if the very earth uncoiled beneath their weight. Choose, the keeper breathed again, drowning them both in a tainted hunger. Or suffer. What choice did she have left? What line could she draw that would save her son? Sudden realization washed over her, and she hesitated. Was surrendering a way to save them, both, or simply more game-playing? A strange certainty edged into her thoughts. And then, from the depths of her heart, a voice rose, one of bold defiance. We will never yield. As she shouted those words, the mist around them pulsed in surprise, patterns shifting erratically. But with it came a deafening roar, the keeper's laughter intertwining with the growth of shadows. Time wobbled, urgency rushing her. Her heart beat fiercely, echoing in the void. Would they remain entangled in the keeper's game or find a way to break free before it was too late? With the final strains of laughter spilling forth, Sarah steadied her gaze on the keeper. We are not afraid of you, we will not play. But the question loomed larger than ever. At what cost? In this game of survival, would they pay the ultimate price? A darkness surged, and the choice that awaited them could change everything. With a pulse of fear and adrenaline coursing through her, Sarah felt every heartbeat like the tick of a clock, echoing the finality of their moment. We will not play, she yelled into the darkness, meeting the keeper's gaze with unwavering resolve. The shadows recoiled slightly, caught off guard by her courage, but their momentum dwindled only for a heartbeat. Are you sure? The keeper's voice slithered through the air, thick with mockery. You say it with such conviction, yet deep down you desire something more: protection, safety. I can offer that. No. Jake's small voice cut through the tension, bringing her back to focus. We don't want what you're selling. The shadows shifted and retreated slightly in response to Jake's declaration, as if they understood that hope could be a weapon. Sarah held tighter onto Jake. Feeling the warmth of his small body reminded her there was love, a tether strong enough to withstand any darkness. We can do this together, Jake, she urged softly, shifting her focus back to the keeper, who towered menacingly. You're fighting a losing battle, he hissed, shadows swirling hungrily at his feet, beckoning for her surrender. The air thickened, urging Sarah to yield to despair, but she pushed back harder. "Don't let them take you. Remember who you are," she shouted, her voice ringing loud and clear as it cut through the creeping dread surrounding them. Jake's face flickered with uncertainty, but something within him sparked a glimmer of the courage she'd ignited in the warmth of their bond. "We won't let you win," he echoed, his voice trembling but steadying in that shared moment. A wave of defiance surged between them, breaking through the keeper's hold. The shadows splintered, revealing their true forms, fragments of lost souls, echoes of the frightened passengers from the bus, trapped in an endless cycle, seemingly drawn in by a terrible, fatiguing gravity. "Legends and dreams can counter the depths of night," they whispered, their voices a haunting chorus that reverberated against the walls. The keeper wavered, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his twisted form. "You think you can escape? I am the darkness within you," he roared, shadow tendrils lashing out, but Sarah felt them begin to weaken against their united front. "No," she screamed back, strength surging through her veins. "You are not us. You cannot control what we choose. We will break this cycle together." As the words erupted from her mouth, Sarah felt a radiant energy spring forth, the shadows dissipating with each syllable chanted, two voices merging seamlessly against the oppressive gloom. Chains of darkness that had driven them into despair now began to shatter, crumbling like dry leaves underfoot. The winds of hope expanded around them, and the walls of the church felt lighter, more alive to the warmth spreading through their hearts. Together, Sarah turned to Jake, their hands clenched firm, strength binding them. "Together," Jake echoed, the tremor of fear now morphing into a concert of hope. The air crackled with an electric vitality. The keeper shrieked, high and piercing as the bond of light intensified, breaking down the darkness into flickering fragments surrounding them as the figures writhed in agony, their horrific forms beginning to lighten. "No, no," the keeper howled, struggling against the tides of their willpower. The room burst with explosions of light, severing the chains of agony that bound the lost souls. "Freedom!" Sarah felt herself roaring, her heart breaking for the weight of others' pain she witnessed, mingled with her own desire to protect Jake. Cracks began splintering through the oppressive shadows, sending fractures of sunlight spilling through like a renewal of dawn. One by one, familiar faces emerged from the shadows of despair, and together, all their voices united. "We choose to live." With one last heart-wrenching screech, the keeper found himself engulfed in the luminous surge of love and hope springing forth from every soul gathered together. The shadows withered, dissipating into wisps of darkness blown away by the wind, that filled the church with warmth as they stood, surrounded by the remnants of what had been, while the air cleared around them. Sarah felt Jake squeeze her hand tight. "We did it, Mom. We did it," he exclaimed, his eyes lighting up, filled with joy. The light shimmered, revealing the once dark church, now transformed into a sanctuary, embracing them. "But will we come back?" Jake's innocent question lingered in the air, the shift of reality lightening the burden they both carried. "Only if we let fear win," Sarah reassured him, kneeling to look into his eyes. "We carry light now. We have each other to return to." And as they stepped through the open doorway into the breathing world outside, sunlight poured over them. Dread Hollow was no longer a prison but a reminder that they were stronger together. Their breaths came easier now, the weight of fear behind them. And as they walked out into the dawn, leaving the shadows where they belonged, Sarah looked down at her son, a smile breaking through the remnants of terror within her heart. "Now let us go home." You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your love for the channel, true fans.